What's happening, everybody? Again, on location in Accra, Ghana. Actually, we're still in Accra, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Accra.
All right, and I'm talking to Fazayah, and we're really about to have a good conversation. I think that needs to be had because a lot of people, especially those who are from the African diaspora in America, are considering either visiting or relocating here to Ghana. And we're going to have some conversation about your journey because you recently moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have a nice spot here. That's it. Yeah, it just kind of surprised me. It's just a really nice spot. And so let's first start talking about why did you decide to move to Ghana?
So my son, he's 11 years old, and he was a victim of parental kidnapping, where his father took him to Ghana without my permission. Well, he had my permission to take him for vacation, but
Understood.
He kept him for years and years and years. So I actually, before I even met my son's father and had a child, I'd actually planned on moving to Ghana. I don't know, it's just always been in my mind. Just I'm gonna move to Ghana. I'm gonna move to Ghana. Even when I was like a little kid, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna move to Africa, and I didn't know Ghana. I just like Googled one day, like, oh, what's the safest country in Africa? Ghana. Okay.
Really?
I'm going to Ghana. Yep.
So Ghana came up as the safest country.
Safest country. Ever since they gave their independence, they're one of the only, I think, or maybe one of two countries out of all the countries in Africa that have never had a civil war and that have never warred with any other neighboring countries.
Really? So Ghana has never had a civil war?
Ever.
They've had coups, but never a civil war.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause like they gained their independence, I think in 57.
57, that's right.
And since then they have not had any civil wars or any wars with neighboring countries, like nothing. Super peaceful, super chill. So that's why I decided to, or that's why Ghana was just on my radar. And then when my son got taken, I was just like, oh, I'm definitely going to Ghana. Definitely going to Ghana.
So your son is the reason why.
Yeah, okay, so he was taken in 2013, but I didn't move here until this year. So it's such a long story, but long story short, the U.S. government would not give me my passport. Would not give me my passport, yeah. We don't know why for sure. I suspect it's because my name is Arabic. It's also Arabic.
Understood.
But I think it has something to do with my father. Like, it's such a long story.
It's a long story. Got it.
So long.
Got it.
So they would not give me my passport. I had to hire a lawyer. They still wouldn't give me my passport. I had to, like, keep pressuring him, keep pressuring the government. I contacted Amy Klobuchar. I can't remember her name.
Yes.
She was a congresswoman.
Yes.
To help me. Like, I contacted Louis Farrakhan to help me. Like, nobody could help me get my passport. And finally, one day, after, like, applying over and over, probably over 10 times applying for a passport, they granted me a passport. I think my lawyer put pressure on them, and I was able to get a passport when in 2016. Yeah. So it took me years to, like, get the courage to leave America. I was so dependent on everything about America. And when the riots broke out, I'm from Minneapolis, so it broke out in my city. I was like, a mile away from where they burnt up Midway Center. So I was like smelling the smoke.
So this is with George Floyd.
Mm-hmm. George Floyd got killed in Minneapolis.
Right. So this is when you talk about the riots.
Yeah.
Some people may not know.
Okay.
So when George Floyd was killed on the streets.
Yes.
By the officer, we all witnessed it. That's what was kind of, I guess, was that a trigger to say, okay, it might be time to make a move?
Catalyst. I think that was a catalyst. Me, just seeing how much of what happened was silenced in the media, so the rest of the world couldn't even see it. So I was honestly afraid for my life and for my community's life, the lives of my friends and family in Minneapolis. I don't know, just going to sleep for a few nights in a row, smelling the smoke and smelling the mace that the officers were dispensing on the peaceful protesters. And then it was just so much involved in my decision, but that was a catalyst, I think. And it was mixed in with the global pandemic and the fact that I couldn't get a flight out because right before the pandemic began, I think I had a flight scheduled for, I think, March. And it was late February that my school, I was in college at the time, my school found out about the pandemic. So I was like, oh my God, can I fly? Am I going to be able to fly?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was supposed to fly out Thursday, and Tuesday they decided that they're closing the borders.
So this was from 2016, then 2018, 19, moving into 2020.
Yeah, so 2020 was when I planned on just moving because I was going to be finished with school in 2020. So I told myself that when I got my bachelor's degree, I would move to Ghana. It didn't happen because of the pandemic. So I had a ticket. So I was going to fly out to move in, I think, March. I can't remember the exact dates, but yeah,
everything got shut down. The world shut down. You were stuck in the U.S.
Stuck in the U.S.
January comes around.
January 2021 comes around. I bought a ticket for June because I just knew the borders was going to be open in 6 months.
Right.
But it didn't happen. So I got that extended to January. And I was like, okay, so in 2016, this is such a long story. In 2016, I had a vision of all of this happening.
Really?
So my spirit guides warned me that there would come a time where I would be stuck in America. And this is no context. I don't know anything about a pandemic, nothing.
It just happened.
Yeah. So I thought I was crazy for years. I was just like, how am I going to be stuck in America? This is ridiculous. So when the pandemic hit, it was just like a catalyst. Like, oh, you got to get the hell out of here.
And so that's when you knew.
Yeah, that's when I knew. And then when the riots happened, I was just like, oh, okay. This is not only will we be stuck here, but us as indigenous people, Black Americans, we will be targeted. And because there was KKK driving around when there's curfew. So Black people, they would get arrested and
they were getting arrested if the KKK was running free.
Let them run free. Hunt for us. And it was just terrifying. So I don't know, that mixed in with the vision I had in 2016, I was just like, we're going to be trapped here and they're going to kill us all. Like it was just terrifying for me. So January is when I didn't care if I graduated or not because I actually had to take a extra semester. Something happened. I can't remember.
So now it seems like everything is prolonging this move. But somehow you made the move in January.
I made the move in January.
And all of the sequence of events led to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is your son still here?
Yep.
Okay, so that you were able to make that connection again.
Yeah.
So that's cool. All right. So now, since being here, now had you ever visited before moving here?
Yes, I have been visiting since 2017.
All right. So you were familiar with the culture and the vibe.
Yeah.
All right. So you knew somewhat what you were moving into.
Yeah.
I'm still like impressed with your place here. In my mind, I'm trying to. I mean, I can't show everybody all the rooms, obviously, but I'm sitting up here like, now how did you find this? So anyway, so you found this spot. Tell me some of the challenges that you've experienced since being here.
In Ghana? Oh my God. The first challenge.
Open up right now.
The first challenge was so I am a Black American. I've been seasoned in oppression. So coming here and they see me. They don't see me as a Black American. They see me as an Abroni. A brony is tree for a white person. So they literally see me as a white person. And it's not because of the color of my skin. It's because of my nationality. So like Ghanaians, they don't see with color. They see with nationality. Like, oh, if you're from America, you're
as soon as you open your mouth.
Yeah.
Because you could probably get away with it if you don't say
Well, they say my skin is too fair, which I don't agree, but I've
seen people your complexion here. Like
me
full-blown Ghanaians.
Yeah. But they say it's just different. Like,
yeah.
And this guy, he even asked me, he's like, are you white? And I'm like, why would you even ask? That's so insulting, bro. Like, why would you even ask me that? But I get it because it's about nationality and it's not necessarily skin color. So here, if you're white, they up the prices on everything. like even on rent, on everything.
On everything, I agree.
Everything. So that was one of the hardest things. It was just so insulting to me as a person that has dealt with oppression my whole life. Like so I come here and it's actually like a I don't know. It's double-sided because on one hand, I get white privilege. Like I exist and operate in white privilege. Like people.
Now explain.
Oh my gosh! You haven't noticed that?
Well, just explain it for those who don't understand it because I feel like we're about to walk down a road here.
Oh my God! So the fact that I'm American, I get treated with special care. They put me on a pedestal. They're afraid to say certain things around me. They treat me like I'm somehow. I don't know. I don't like to use the word more sacred. They treat me as if I'm more sacred than the average Ghanaian. Like I need to be treated special with special care. And for me, that translates as white privilege because they don't see a difference in me and Abronis. And Abronis, again, are white people. So I've noticed like people, they speak softer to me. They or they go out their way to just make sure that I'm satisfied
I understand
in the environment, anything, and it's only because I'm an American. So that to me is white privilege. I understand why white people behave the way they do sometimes. Like,
but that's interesting. Think about that though. Think about what you just said,
bro.
Because somebody watching,
I know.
they are like their mind is baffled. Like, wait a minute.
I know.
You're black coming from America, dealing with the oppression. Then you come to Africa, and I'm now just saying Africa, obviously Ghana, and you get white privilege. Mm-hmm. You see how
it blew my mind.
How it can be conflicting for someone.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you mean because I know it. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You get charged the Obroni price, but we're leaving
all of them, and we have a rare viewpoint of white people. I feel like the rest of the world sees white people as they put them on this pedestal because of the propaganda and the movies and the religion and all that stuff. But we have a unique perspective of white people. We see their ugly very clearly. We studied them. We had to study them in order to survive. So we know them more than I feel like the world.
Some of us know some of us, but some of us are like here. Some of us.
What you mean?
Meaning some of us in the States kind of think with the pedestal mindset too. Some of us.
I agree, some, but that's a small percentage of black
people. I think it's shrinking.
I feel like
now.
Definitely shrinking, especially since the riots. Like, I think the whole world is awakening to white people's ugly, absolutely. But here is so ingrained. I mean, they have white Jesus on taxis, on buildings. They have them everywhere, like white Jesus and I don't think that we understand collectively as a human species how programming and how important it is for representation of ourselves, especially of a deity. To have a white deity is so damaging to our psyche, and I think that's a large part of the reason why white people are treated as more sacred, and me included, because I'm seen as an Abroni.
Understood.
So that's what I mean by white privilege. Is I'm treated as more sacred, more fragile.
And that's a part you think that comes from the colonization.
Absolutely.
And from the
and the religious programming.
So you have the colonization, you have the religious programming, but you still benefit from it.
I think that there is benefit, but I don't see it as a benefit.
Understood.
I have so much PTSD, so much trauma from, dealing with the microaggressions from age, from me crawling out my mother's womb to me today. Like, it's just too much for me to benefit from it. I can't sit down and have an honest conversation with a Ghanaian because of my status. I don't feel like I can.
When you say an honest conversation, what do you mean?
I don't feel like an average Ghanaian can be themselves around me because they see me as here instead of equal to them.
And so that can pose a challenge.
I feel like they put on this I'm very perceptive of people. I'm very I'm an empath, so I can feel what's happening more than I can articulate what's happening. So with my experience, a lot of Ghanaians, they put on this face for me.
Because they think that you're special. They think
and they can't just get down and dirty, gritty with me. Like,
so do you feel as though you could have a real conversation about the different things that we're talking about now? Do you think that you could have that type of conversation and say, hey, what's going on here?
I've tried many times.
You see white Jesus everywhere.
I have preached so hard to so many Uber drivers and neighbors, and so for one, Ghanaians are very polite.
Yes, some of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Incredibly polite. I love that about Ghanaians. But I also feel like it's very difficult for them to be authentic in that regard because they're so polite. So it's politeness before authenticity, as in the African American culture is authenticity before politeness, and that's on period.
That's very true.
So it's completely opposite
that's
here. So it's I find it very difficult to authentically connect with the locals here, and that's just from my experience. So for me, it's a very lonely journey. It's a very lonely experience here in Ghana as an African American.
What about those who may have traveled abroad and spent some time in, say, the UK or the US?
Yeah.
Do you find that same challenge?
No, I don't.
So it's cultural.
It's absolutely cultural.
Got it.
Absolutely cultural. And I'm so angry as a Black woman, and I want to share that anger with Ghanaians because y'all got done worse than anybody. I feel like Africa has got. I can go on and on about the treatment of. We all know, like this is the richest continent on the planet.
I would say everybody doesn't know. You got to remember.
Okay.
You remember, everybody doesn't know.
This is the richest continent on the planet, yet these are the poorest people on the planet. For what reason? Because we're being raped. Africa is being raped for its resources, its spirituality, its culture, all of it. So I feel like if anyone has any more reason to be more upset than indigenous people, Black Americans, it's Africans. So I come here like looking for the camaraderie in our shared hatred for our oppressor. And no, they're nice. We love. Like,
well, I'm gonna tell you, I just went through something on one of my pages, on my IG page, and it's this whole white wig with the judges wearing the blonde white wigs from the colonial era, and I just posted it to say, hey, this is what happens when your mind has been colonized. Most people understood it, and a lot of people from different parts of Africa, because it's happening all over Africa. It's not just happening in Ghana, it's happening in Kenya and Zimbabwe, and so people are speaking up. But there were some people who were very bothered by the fact that I pointed out the obvious and kind of used it, and one person was like, we don't share the hatred that you have, and I was like, well, I said, well, I was kind of like, well, I don't have any hatred. I was like, but
it's honestly and
I was kind of like, do you understand? These people are screwing you, and they've screwed us, and we just got tired.
We're pretty much radically accepted the fact, like we're very aware, but it seems like Ghanaians are in denial about them being screwed by the colonizers,
and it's a lot of places.
Places, not just Ghana.
And I got to circle it back. There's some folks back in America like that too, but you know.
We're not even gonna talk about them. They're irrelevant. Why are we even bringing them up? Like that's so.
But I think I was shocked when I saw the pushback. I mean, to the point of those who do recognize it, they're very vocal. Meaning there are people, people who speak up and say, look, we need to get rid of this stuff. How can the world take us seriously if we're walking around looking like this with this particular, some would say it's a uniform, some would say it's a costume, some would say, and so I think it's a very valid conversation because we see And others, I mean, others who are indigenous here to Africa as well, they see what's going on, but then there's a large segment of the population that says, this is fine with me. I don't see anything wrong with it. You know, we're loving and we
accept. It's all they know, yeah.
So
and then it also has to do with the religion. The main religion here is Christianity, and the main teaching of Christianity is turn the other cheek, love your enemy.
Okay.
So it's that mentality. Oh, they push us and we just keep letting them, or they rape us and we just keep letting them, or they steal from us and we just give them our coat too. You know, because that's literally in the Bible. So that's their mentality when it comes to oppression. When they're oppressed, the Lord will work things out and eventually. No.
But you know, a lot of people in America be saying that too. But anyway, I know we're not talking about that. I
don't even give them energy.
Because I hear that too.
I don't give them none of my life force.
So it's,
they're not part of us.
So when I hear about it, I said, well, what triggered a thought for me was, where did this stuff come from? You know, and how did we get to this place? Because, like you talked about the taxis, and I was watching TV, and a little preacher was on TV, and he had the two white Jesuses behind him, and it was a room full of Africans. Mm-hmm. And I just looked and I said, now granted, this was happening not too long ago in America too. So it was, you know, you go back about 25 years, Florida Evans Good Times, you can just kind of 30 years or so, you can go back and see it. But I look and I say, what's happening? And what do we do? You know, or is there anything that we can do? Because now my thought goes to the next question.
I think it's important for us to not give any of our life force energy to why it happened.
Okay.
Or how it happened. Like, we need to get all of our life force, all of our attention out of the past. And we need to look ahead to see what we want. And what we want collectively, and I feel like I'm confident in speaking for all of us. I feel like what we want collectively is to be liberated in mind and spirit and body, all of that.
What does that look like?
I think it looks like something as simple as worshiping a deity that looks like us. Worshiping a deity that makes sense. Like, I feel like a lot of the power that comes from, or a lot of the power that the colonizers use is also misogynist in nature. Like, it's rooted in misogyny, and it's rooted in a patriarchal system of thinking and believing. Like, let's start there. For one, men don't birth life.
I have not seen.
Women do.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
And before the colonizers came here, actually the Akan people in Ghana, they worshipped a woman deity. And many places in Africa, all over Africa, it was a female deity. And that worship of a female deity that looked like a black woman is more realistic, for one, because we all know that all human beings came from a black woman. Black women are the only women on the planet that have the Eve gene, meaning that every type of human being can be extracted from a black woman's DNA, but it can't be extracted from any other woman's DNA. Okay. We all know that. So it's more realistic that the deity is a woman. I call her the first mother. She's had many names over the years, but I feel like we can start there. Another thing we can kind of, if we just sit back and look at history and look at everything, but not with our feelings, because that's giving our life force energy too. But just as
from an intellectual perspective,
yeah,
just from
as an
factual,
observer,
okay,
we can see that they need us.
When you say they,
the oppressors of this planet. And I'm not just talking about black people, because they're oppressing everything. They're oppressing trees, they're oppressing water, they're oppressing food, they're oppressing everything.
The air,
the space now.
Yeah.
The oppressors of this planet need us. And it'd be wise for us to ask ourselves why. And my personal theory is that we are the only creators here. Think about it. They've never been able to create anything, only steal from us. And refurnish it and rename it they have no land that they can call theirs. Like Asia,
Understood.
Europe is in Asia.
Yes.
If we look at it,
Yes, it's all one big.
Caucasians, but they're not Asians.
Hmm.
So they have no land that they can call their own. So they steal all the land, they steal all the cultures, and that's why they steal cultures, because they don't have a culture of their own. Because they can't create one. Because we're the only creators here. I feel like that's just my personal opinion. But don't get me in my black supremacist vibe, because I will go on and on.
Well, I think it's important to have these types of conversations, because what I discovered is that there's a lot of muzzling that happens. And one of the things that I do with my platform is to have people share, because there's so much out here that most people don't know or haven't heard or haven't considered because of what colonization has done.
Mm-hmm.
It has basically dominated the conversation.
Yeah.
It's dominated the media. It's dominated religion. It's dominated education. It's dominated business. So anything that challenges that is either shot down or it's attempted to be shot down, or it's manipulated and twisted and morphed into, like what you said, some whole new thing that they will steal and use for whatever purpose they want to use it for. Yeah. So while you're sharing this, I think it's important for people to know how other people feel, and everybody's not monolithic in their thinking. Mm-hmm. Meaning that this is a conclusion that you've come to as a result of your own experiences and what you've seen in your observations. And that's real. And that's one of the reasons why I say I think it'd be good for us to have this conversation, for you to be able to say, look, this is what I'm feeling, this is what's going on. Yeah. And so your thought is, or your feeling is, that we should worship a female deity with melanin.
We should just focus on what we want instead of what we have suffered through and what they're doing. Like, we need to take all of our attention off of them. Like, don't give them no attention. Just treat them like an annoying fly in the air. Like, even though they come and they destroy whole lands and all that, just focus on because we're the only creators. So obviously there's something in us that creates. We should learn to figure it out. And my theory is that it's our life force, and our life force is exercised through our attention, like what we place our attention on. And I feel like that's why they're so attention seeking. They're so attention grabbing. Like, oh, look at us. We're causing black trauma. They got America on lock right now. Black America on lock right now with that black trauma. Killing a black person every other week, every other week. The
trauma is real. It's everybody's walking around. As a matter of fact.
What if we just looked away? And that's something that's insane. For even me to speak it is, I'm sure the viewers is like, gas? You don't care? Of course I care. Of course I care. But I think that our attention will be better spent on something else. I feel like it's planned what they're doing with our attention and our grief.
It's almost like it's being manipulated in a sense.
Absolutely.
Manipulated against us.
Manipulated against us and used for their... Because the more black people get killed, the more powerful they get in our psyche. The more powerful.
That's real.
And God gets smaller.
I'm going to tell you why. Because when I'm here, I don't have the anxiety that I have when I go back to the States. Mm-hmm. It's in the air. Even with how they have manipulated this whole COVID thing. Mm-hmm. And I think about going back to the States, and I say to myself, all right, I gotta go back into this, and then I'll have people reach out to me on social media. How is it over there? Y'all okay over there? Mm-hmm. What's going on over there? And I'm saying, hey,
it's all about energy. They're manipulating energy by using us, because we're the only power there. We're the only.
So
power.
They manipulate us. Well, let me ask you this question: is it all white people to you?
That's an interesting question. I think a part of me, because I go back and forth. I can't say for certain which one I believe. I think a part of me believes that because they came from us, we have some of them. Like the first mother in us. Like, think about, surf back to our mitochondrial DNA. And
first break it all the way down to the
mother.
Cellular level, okay.
The first mother, the first deity, the first creator on this planet, on this plane. They're her children. So I feel like she has a lot of them. And what I mean by that is that they're operating for her through all of the bull crap that white supremacy is. But I think the nature of, and then another part of me thinks that the nature of white people is anti-earth, anti-planet. When they first started getting culture and intelligence, and they began anti-nature. They started building houses and societies.
So development
away from nature.
Okay, so development.
Because okay, so people have been on this planet for thousands of years.
Yes.
We have never built something that's so anti-nature, that's harmful to her. We've never cut down over half of our oxygen supply as rapidly as they have.
Understood.
Which is the trees. We've never attacked the trees. We've never attacked the water. We've never poisoned so much of the ocean and the lakes and the river. We've never done that. But we've been here thousands and thousands of years. We've had all of the power and all of the space to colonize and dominate.
And you're talking about the black people, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus those who are from, I guess, European, I guess you include Asia in there too, or parts of Asia, if you will. So with that,
it all comes down to melanated and less melanated.
Because that led me to my next question. Those of us who are a part of the African diaspora, many of us have a considerable percentage of that white DNA. So how does that impact those of us who have that 25-30% or more of the white DNA? Do we now pick up some of that?
I don't think it impacts us at all. I think that the first mother we have the dominant gene, and that's just science. They have the recessive gene.
Okay.
So if a black man and a white woman has a baby, the baby comes out black. Baby comes out with curly hair, melanated skin. She's a black baby. So I feel like we have the dominant gene, and this gets so much into.
It's going down different road.
Going down such a different road. I guess what I'm trying to say is this.
Yeah.
I feel like just on a physical level, on a physical plane, scientifically, I feel like the first mother gene is very powerful.
Okay.
I think she has a lot of the souls of the colonizers. I think that a lot of the colonizers' children are turning against the initial instinct to dominate and destroy, steal, kill, and destroy.
So you think that there's a transition happening with this new generation?
Absolutely.
Of colonizers.
And I think it began in the 60s, if you ask
So
me.
they're becoming less colonizing? Is that what you're saying?
I think that they're turning on themselves.
Because there were a whole lot
I don't think that they're becoming less colonized. I think that's just their nature.
But there were a lot of people who were marching after George Floyd. So if you went to London, you went to Paris, you had a lot of white people marching, and protesting, and were very passionate about it. So what is that coming from, you think?
I think that's from colonizing the process. I think that's just their nature to colonize it. I'm not saying that they don't care. I think that they do care. But I think their nature is their nature. I'm not going to expect to go out and hug a lion.
You're saying, from what I'm hearing you say, you're not going to go out and hug something that's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And based on what you've seen in your experiences, that's what you see coming from the colonizer.
Yeah.
And
they are inherently them. That's just what they are. I do think that what's happening now is that they're turning in on themselves.
And I guess it kind of goes back to the question I asked not too long ago. Is it all of them? Because I'm just thinking about the viewer, I'm thinking about that person.
I hear what you're saying.
You feel what I'm saying? Is it
I
all
go back
of them?
and forth.
Okay.
Like, I do believe that, again, I do believe that the first mother has a large percentage of them. I feel like, I believe that a large percent of the colonizers are working for her benefit, for our benefit collectively, for the planet's benefit collectively.
So you believe that there's a group that's working for the collective benefit of everyone? Of colonizers?
Yes, but I don't think that they are aware of it.
So they're just inherently doing this because
they're connected to her and she has them. I feel like
Okay.
there's a large disconnect in a large percentage of the colonizers to nature, to source, to whatever, the light, the all in all. I feel like there's a huge cutoff. There's a huge disconnect, and I feel like that, like, okay, if we look at the whole planet as a body, and we look at what's behaving as a cancer, it's the colonizers. The colonizers are going around trying to convince everyone else that they're just like them. Like, let's take your culture away from you, and now you act just like me. That's what cancer cells do in the body. Cancer cells, they go to a different cells like, hey, you not a skin cell, you just like me, you cancer cell. So that's what I mean when I say.
And what's the end result of the cancer when it takes over?
It kills the whole body. So that's what I mean when I say I think a large percentage is turning away from that nature. A large percentage is reconnecting to the rest of the body.
Okay.
And they have connected through their nature. Like a lot of them came and say, hey, you're cancer, and we like, no, we this. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm this.
So when there's resistance, then do they conform to the resistance, or what is that?
So they're behaving like us. They're dressing like us. They're getting butt implants, blah, 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 all that stuff like us. And that's not the only thing they're mimicking. They're also mimicking the life in us, the source in us. And that's turning into our salvation, I believe, in my opinion.
Interesting.
I don't think it's all bad when they culturally appropriate our culture. I don't think it's all detrimental to our culture. I think it's there's salvation in there because they're also culturally appropriating our empathy, our connection to source, our love for nature. You know, there's more tree huggers than there ever has been.
With being in this space here in Ghana, how has that confirmed or maybe challenged some of what you may have thought before?
I saw how far the hand reaches. I had no idea. I was honestly, in my naivety, I was expecting to come here and be welcomed and connect with so many people who have a true sight of the enemy of the planet. And I come here and I see that it's so ingrained, it's rooted in the schools and religions, and a lot of Ghanaians are disconnected to nature. And
it's interesting you say that, because something I felt recently, I felt that I'm seeing remnants of the indigenous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Remnants.
There's that here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like sometimes I watch my neighbors and I see how they just let flow happen. Let flow. You know what I mean? Like how do I
They just go with the flow, kind of just.
Okay, so here, this is a great thing about Ghanaians is that the individual, the thing that separates me and you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super strong, super thick, because we're American. But here is less. You feeling me? Like
break it down.
they're more like one people. Like let's say I'm on the street and I get lost, and I'm Ghanaian. I'm a Ghanaian woman on the street lost. There's gonna be so many Ghanaian men. Hey, where you going?
Yes.
I need to help you get to where you need to go. Absolutely. Because you're a woman and you're lost on the street at night. You shouldn't be on the street at night. It's just they're so together. They're so one.
They are one.
They're very.
And maybe that was something that they didn't lose. Maybe that's a part of the indigenous.
Mm-hmm. A communal culture.
Yes.
Yeah. Super. So that's what I mean when I'm when I watch the neighbors and I see that they go with the flow. So like, let's say they don't have any water, they go to the neighbors and get some water and just bring it back.
What's the difference with us? How would that be with us? They got a high pitched squeal out of there.
Listen. Let me just speak from my experience.
Okay.
Me personally, I am super independent. Not necessarily a great thing, especially in a culture that's community based like Ghana. I'm having a really hard time assimilating because I don't like asking for help. I don't like depending on other people for help. It feels so icky to me to seek help and get help and
Is that the American colonized in us?
I think it's not just American, it's black women.
Okay.
Like particularly black women. I think
from America or from
absolutely.
Okay, so American black women got it.
Yeah, because we're hyper independent. Like, and we were just raised that way to be the go getters, and
So that's a part of our culture.
I think
what
it's a
happened
part of
in because a lot of people don't know our story. I mean, we barely know our story from
Mm-hmm.
what's the accurate side of it. But it sounds like coming here, it's like now you're aware of it more because I guess you have like a whole gang of folks over in America like, girl, do your thing. Over here they're like, what are you talking about? What are you?
And then the man, they actually want to help you, and they consider it to be offensive if you don't allow them to help you here.
You're the second person I've talked to within the past week who's told me this difference.
So it's really hard. I'm thinking I'm doing them a favor. No, I got it. But it's really insulting them.
Oh.
It's insulting them. So it's a challenge.
Well, how about this? Let me throw this question your way. How has dating been like since you've been here, or is that a part of the?
So for me personally, I'm not interested in dating at the time. At this time, I'm ever since like maybe I got that vision and my ancestors connected with me and my spirit guides connected with me. I just been really focused on healing and ascending, and just cultivating my spiritual walk and trying my best to be nutritious to the world around me.
So when you say healing, what do you mean?
Healing from past trauma, healing from ancestral trauma, healing from because when I met my spirit guides, they took me on a journey through my cellular memory, and I remembered a lot of traumatic experiences that happened to my DNA, and particularly during slavery.
So from your experience, you're able to recall or sense what happened during slavery and I
understand it. Like, for example, my mother, she was real standoffish with her children as far as like physical affection and even in loving us. Like, I don't feel like I got unconditional love from my mother. And my spirit guides took me back to when that was damaged in our lineage. It was, she was a slave woman. She looked like me and my sister put together. She was a slave woman. She had I think he was about 2 or 3-year-old boy. He had beautiful, beautiful loose locks, like a whole big old afro. And they put him up on this like stage or some platform, and they killed him in front of her and in front of her other kids. And she went home that night in her slave quarters, and she vowed that she would never love her kids the same because she just cannot go through it. And
so there was a wall that
she withdrew her love from the rest of her children, and
because of the pain that she felt as a result of that loss.
From them killing, and I was in her shoes, so I understood how much she loved this little boy and how innocent and pure he was to her. So he could do no wrong, but yet they found wrong in him and murdered him. And she just withdrew her love. So her children that were still alive, they inherited that. And then they had children, they inherited that. And then my mother. And it got passed on to me. And they were revealing it to me so that I could break the cycle.
So how do you break the cycle now that it's been brought to your attention? Because, I mean, again, a lot of people in the audience, I don't know what they're saying in the comments or how they're feeling about it, but for them, they may not be able to connect with it. But break it down, because you're saying something that.
Well, the first step of healing is to feel it. So before, I didn't even acknowledge it. I didn't see any trauma in my past. Like, I understood that I went through some traumatic experience, but I feel like, just life healed them for me. Like, I didn't.
You just kind of went on and.
Yeah, you went on and I just did what I did, and I was numb to all of it. So the first part of healing is actually very crippling because you have to feel everything. You have to allow yourself to truly feel for the little girl that got neglected, or the little girl that got beat or molested, and you actually have to allow her to feel it in you, the little girl in you, and then you have to feel for her. Like, you know what, that was really messed up to happen. Like, you have to make space in your being for that process to happen.
But a lot of us are in denial.
Absolutely.
A lot of us are in denial because of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Because of just
fear.
being in fear.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But how
like,
it might impact someone else.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. Trauma that is not transformed is transferred. So if we cannot transform it in our being, we're going to pass it on to our children. We're going to pass it on to the neighbor. We're going to pass it on to lovers. We're going to pass it on to everybody we interact with.
People on the job, how we treat anyone.
Anybody. And before I started my healing work, I would notice my behavior. And I would be ashamed of it. I'm like, where did that come from?
What would be some of the behavior?
Like, I would be rude to a kid or something. And it was because I was adults were being rude to me as a child, and I never processed that. Or I was looked at as an annoyance as a child from my parents. And I never processed it. I never even thought about it. But I would be annoyed at children that were the similar age when that happened to me. Or something like that.
So as an adult, you would be annoyed with children that were a similar age
of when
you actually had that trauma occur in your life. Got it.
Or I would spank my baby, my then baby at the time, for something frivolous, something he couldn't control.
And that's real, because there are people watching right now who have either been told just to put in the back of their mind, but they're acting out towards everyone.
And they don't even think about it.
There's not even.
There's no self-reflection whatsoever.
And do you think that affects their relationships?
Of course.
Meaning, when I say this, meaning their marriages, their romantic relationships?
It's beyond us. We have no choice but to transfer the trauma. We cannot contain it in our body. It has to either be transformed or pass through us. That's just the nature of trauma. That's just the nature of energy at a molecular level. Like, it's just science, essentially. So anyway, there's a lot of things that we can do. The easiest thing that I found is go back in time. We can time travel with our thoughts, with our minds, with our emotions. Like, I thought about the earliest memory of me being harmed. I was 2 years old. I was in diapers. I haven't had my diaper changed in days. I go back to her and I lay her down. I change her diaper and I hold her and I say, I love you, I love you, I love you. Just talk to her and tell her everything I needed to hear at that time.
And this was a real life situation that you went through.
Yes.
And now you went back to that.
Went back in
said, hey,
real
listen.
time. And I picked her up, gave her a hug because she felt so alone and she was yearning for her mother's touch, just to be touched, because she hasn't been touched in days. So I had I was a victim of severe neglect in my childhood, and and I remember raising my child when he was that age and being terrified of being that mother to him. So
that's even like a trauma if you think about it, because now you haven't dealt with what you went through.
I didn't even remember.
But now it's fear.
I didn't even remember me being treated like that. I just knew when he was that age and he was in diapers, I was terrified of not changing his diaper in time or not hugging him enough. So I overcompensated and I always hugged him, and I was like a helicopter mom. I was always, so it comes out, and the trauma comes out. It comes out. Whether it comes out exactly the way that we received it or it comes out on the opposite end, it's still trauma.
Yes.
So
that's what you're working on now. So that's why you're not, because I asked you about the dating. You said you're not focused on the dating.
Yeah, I'm just not interested, honestly. I'm not interested.
But you're focused on yourself.
Not just on myself, but how I can be of service to others around me. Like, I want to be nutritious. I want to be like nature. Like trees. They give off,
oxygen and everything.
And it's an even exchange. So I want it to be an even exchange when I'm around other people, around other beings, around other things. I don't want to be a burden or to take. And I feel like that was me before I started this healing journey, because I needed so much. And now I can just go back in time and give myself what I needed. Like, I needed attention and love.
I was going to ask you, what were the things that you needed?
And security. So
would you say that you were an insecure person at one point because of that?
I never saw myself as being insecure.
Okay.
I really haven't.
But needy and needing
needy
attention
and affection And it came off as other things, like addictions, anger, rage. I would get in a lot of fights. It came off as other things. It wasn't just like...
What type of addictions?
Oh my God, so many addictions. Like, you name it, I was addicted to it.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, all of it. Luckily, I've been able to shed all of those addictions.
Weed.
All of it, yeah.
Cocaine.
Yeah. Alcohol, all of it.
Heroin.
Yeah. No, I tried heroin one time. I never got addicted.
Crack.
Yep.
Okay, that's real. I mean, now you and I did not know we were going to have this conversation, and I truly appreciate it because it's real, and I like talking to real people because in this world you can meet so many folks who they wear masks. And they try to appear a particular way, but you know, as I've gotten older, I can kind of look and sense, okay, that person is putting on a mask, and it really goes back to the colonization and the culture and the people pleasing and wanting to be accepted. That's another form of trauma because now maybe they were rejected when they were younger.
See, I've been rejected so much, I no longer fear rejection.
It doesn't.
I fall into it.
Right. It's kind of like
lean into it.
Yeah.
So I don't care. It feels good to me to be honest. It feels good to me to be open and transparent. So that's where I choose to be in my life. Other people who've had similar experience, like even my siblings, they've chose the opposite road. You know,
really?
To put on a mask and cover up. You know, but we all went through the same trauma. You know, it's just our preferences. Like with me, I was the scapegoat in the family. So my siblings, they had that tribal protection. I never had it. So that got broken in me from a young age. And even in school, I was always bullied. I was always chased to the bus, beat up by my classmates. So I never had that tribal security. So I no longer need it.
So there's a lot of trauma.
I don't care.
There's trauma from the family, then from your social network, and so then that's when it turned into the rage and the addictions. Food addiction.
Yep.
I was gonna say sugar addiction, but I think everybody's probably dealt with sugar addiction because sugar's everywhere.
Yeah.
In relationships, did you have relationship addictions? Toxic type? Would you attract the toxic type people?
Absolutely, I would. I would attract the toxic type of people. I think I was extremely codependent in relationships.
Break that down for me.
I'm a Cancer. I'm super loving. I'm super giving, affectionate. Like even you, I didn't even know you, and I asked you if you needed some food, if you was hungry.
Right.
You know, I just like doing stuff for other people. That makes me feel good. So I would attract these toxic partners, and they would really take advantage of that side of me, and I allowed them to take advantage of it because that's when I felt like I like being helpful. I like being of service. So I think that's where I place a lot of my worth at, is in
those relationships.
Yeah, in those relationships, and not just romantic partners, just friendships. All of it. Like I would give my all to people, and
would they take advantage of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I only know love through toxicity, like through toxic partners, through toxic parents, toxic siblings. So I only was able to attract those type of people to me. It was toxic people. So yeah, that's a huge part of the reason why I'm not dating anymore, because I don't know how to not attract or be attracted to toxic people. Like I attract all types of people because I'm fine as hell. But
no modesty. Oh my goodness.
Period. Like first of all, modesty is a trap. Like I'm very intelligent. I can see myself in the mirror. Like anyway, we're not even gonna get into.
So you're being honest with yourself. It's okay. She's being honest with herself. But I'm gonna tell you, there's a flip side to this because a lot of people have been trained to when they look in the mirror, for them to say, for them to downplay themselves,
especially women, and women particularly, we're not supposed to know that we're beautiful. Only men are supposed to know, and men are supposed to tell us, and we'd be like, "Oh, thank you. Oh, wow, really?" Like,
and that is real. That is real. The culture will have it like that, and then that opens the door to those other scenarios.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Because if somebody in their mind is waiting for someone else to validate them, and then they're not getting it, and they can't look in the mirror and validate it for themselves, then what happens? You know, what does that lead to?
Yeah.
So that,
in spite of everything, I've always maintained a pretty healthy self-esteem. I feel like
even with all the toxicity, with
even
all
with
the traumas,
all of it, the addictions, all of it,
Okay.
I've always maintained a pretty healthy self-esteem. I know myself, and that I think that was my saving grace, self-reflection. If I didn't develop the ability to self-reflect at a young age, I think I would be lost, honestly. Yeah.
What do you say to people who are dealing with it now? Maybe a teenager or someone younger who may be watching
Dealing
this.
with what?
Dealing with, say, a difficult situation at home. And they're dealing with traumas because when you're young, you really can't even talk about it. It's like you have to bury it.
And you think it's the norm.
And you think it's the norm.
Think life is shitty. I mean,
Yeah.
crappy.
What do you say to them because you never know you never know who's watching and where they're watching from.
I would say if I would have known the person I would become as a teenager, I would have never thought for a moment to give up on myself. Because I've struggled with suicidal ideation throughout my adolescence. And I know that's still an issue for many teenagers. And I would say I'm so glad that I never went through with it, because the unraveling of me was worth it, just to discover me throughout the years and discover different versions of me and also life. I don't think that we have a clear image of life at that young of an age, because it's filtered through our experience, and our experience is so tiny, and it's only through our family that we experience. So I would say you're a teenager struggling with all this, save up money, move away, and that's when you get to know yourself and you'll love yourself.
So when you say move away, when you
Absolutely.
travel the world, or
Move away from your family.
Get away
immediately.
from the get away from the toxicity.
Absolutely. Even if you got a loving family,
just get away.
Get
and see
away
something
from your
different.
family. Experience existing outside of your family, outside of the family dynamics, because the family is a system, whether we realize it and know it or not. It's a system, and you're part of that system. So let's say you're going like this in your family, but then when you move away, you go like this, or you go, like I could not fathom who I was until I moved away from my family. I moved away when I was 19, and that was the best decision I ever made, because I didn't know myself. I only knew what they told me I was. And they told me I was a scapegoat. They told me I was a mess up. They told me I was the reason for all of their problems. Like,
really?
Yeah, literally, that was my role in the family. I absorbed, because I was the most sensitive. I was an empath. I was the only empath. So I absorbed all of their shame.
Yeah, so you could feel everything.
Yeah, and so they took advantage of it, and they gave me all their shame, all their guilt, all of the dark parts of them. They projected it onto me, and I took it. So that was what I was. I just thought I thought I was the worst person in the world, the most despicable person in the world.
But through all of that, though, you still maintained a healthy self-image.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like I knew that there was something in me that was spectacular, or
even with all of that.
Even with it, and I cannot explain how or why. I just knew.
And I'm asking
even
you
with racism, like first grade, my teachers would, the microaggressions. I still knew that what they was referring to, it wasn't me. And then I just felt like growing up, the me, I couldn't get free outside of what everybody else thought of me, and a part of me thought I was. I just that's what it felt like. It felt like there was a part of me that was in prison, and I wasn't able to get free, and I wasn't able to even exist in this body, because this body was an accumulation of what everyone else thought of me, and what big part of me thought of myself. But there was a part of me that maintained its purity, and it was just so strong.
It was the core. It was at your core.
Yeah, it was my core, and it just knew. I just knew.
How do you feel about therapy?
I'm in therapy every week.
So that's something you would recommend?
Absolutely.
Because in some circles...
I want to go to a white therapist.
You say you wouldn't?
Mm-mm. I mean, I've found therapists that are white that are she owns them. The first mother owns them, so that they have compassion, they have empathy, and they really about their job. I've had also therapists who gaslight me and try to further traumatize me.
Try to tell you basically your experience is not real.
Yeah.
What you're feeling is not what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Have you considered that it's not really what you're thinking, and maybe you're making?
And
That's gaslighting everybody.
And they just do that because they're violent. That's what they chose. They're violent, and particularly they're violent toward Black bodies. So like, I would be cautious in choosing a therapist. I find certain parts of my life I wasn't able to go to a Black therapist because a lot of I found there was like a hatred between Black women that I couldn't get past in some with some therapists.
So if you had a therapist, you would feel that perhaps there was a Black woman.
It was like an unconscious hatred because I had to maneuver around the programming with Black people. We're all been programmed.
You're all been programmed.
And there's nothing we can do about that until we acknowledge it. So a lot of the unconscious programming I will bump up against with therapists, with Black women particularly.
Give me an example of what that would sound like, because somebody watching is now curious.
Like a Black therapist, she would give her all to her white client, but then when it comes to me, she would just be like mediocre and like whatever. And it wasn't conscious.
But hold on,
it was unconscious.
Let me do a little gaslighting. But could that be something that you're internalizing and making up in your own mind?
It could be.
What? Okay, maybe that wasn't gaslighting. Maybe that was.
No, that was gaslighting.
Okay, all right. Because I was gonna say.
It could be, but I'm really I feel like I have a keen sense of understanding frequencies and
I got
intentions.
another gaslight I'm gonna throw at you. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's just I don't know. That's just my experience.
Right.
And then I noticed with like Black men therapists, a lot of the time it was just a lot of stuff. It was just a lot of stuff that you had to like maneuver around and so it just really depends on finding an individual that works with you. At one point in my life, it was a white woman that I found that really worked well with me. Right now, it's a Black woman. At one point, it was a Latino man. You just really
I guess it just depends.
It really just depends.
Here's a gaslight. This is I've heard this in the story many times. Could it be that there's bitterness that you have towards people that's causing you to go through what you're going through?
Yeah.
I'm waiting on you.
I mean, that's a very vague statement. What do you mean?
But no. I'm saying that's a part of what people will say, meaning they will listen to what you're saying, ignore what you're saying, and then try to dismiss what you're saying by now trying to say it's your problem. You're the reason why. You understand what I'm saying? Do you think this bitterness is what's?
Well, I think it's that's one of our traps in America. We're such an individualistic society. We don't even recognize when the issue is not just us. It's and us. It's the environment we grew up in. It's the society at large. It's the country's temperament. It's the country's where they are spiritually, economically, psychologically. It's all that involved in our mental health. And I think I think we're moving out of that individual. Like I think psychologists have gaslit us for years in that regard. Oh, it's you have an anger issue. Well, why am I angry? Because I'm a Black girl growing up in a home, in a neighborhood, in a white neighborhood, and in a home where we're starving. But
you need to get over it. You need to. When are you going to let that go? You just need to get this. This is a part of the conversation, and it comes from people who look like us too.
Yeah,
because of the programming.
It's psychology in general. I think for many years, psychology they couldn't see past their individualism, and they couldn't look at the societal influences of mental health. It's crazy.
So we need to have a real conversation around it, because those who, even though there are those who are here on the continent that have gone through similar traumas, it's different. Meaning because our identities were so impacted and stripped and all of that. So when we're dealing with the therapy and we're dealing with these different conversations, it's like someone, if a therapist is genuine, then they would really take the time to understand our stories. And it's not even so much that they can put it in a book, one general book for everyone. Because I think a lot of times what therapists do, they listen, and then they just say, okay, let me just prescribe this for you without understanding the layers of, because what you've spelled out, layers of traumas from childhood, dealing with racism, dealing with relationships, dealing with, all of these different things. But then I think sometimes as a part of the whole gaslighting situation, that is not extracted to the extent that it could be extracted. And then I hear, and even though I don't know what someone's saying right now, I can hear them saying, well, she just need to go pray. And she just need to go on over there and pray, and all that's going to go away. But I know people who have done that, who have gone and just prayed, and it would still be there, and they would be afraid to talk about it on the real. I mean, because what you're bringing us right now is the real. This is not, you're not dressing this up at all. And my concern is for those people who can't be as honest as how you're being right now, because they're afraid of, I know people who are afraid.
It's not for everybody.
No, it's not for everybody.
The way I'm dealing with my trauma is not for everybody. A lot of trauma is not meant to be healed. Like if I healed my trauma of not being accepted into my root tribe, my family, I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't be as bold as I am.
So some of that trauma actually helped you to become who you are.
Yeah, you transform it. You don't heal every trauma. And I think personally, for me, my experience, I think it's absolutely impossible that I heal every trauma I've ever experienced. I don't think trauma is meant for that. I think like a butterfly experience is trauma trying to get out the cocoon. But guess what? That trauma strengthen the muscles, and like if you cut open a cocoon to try to help the butterfly not gonna make a butterfly
because it didn't go through the full process.
Develop the muscles and the wings and trying to struggle. So I don't think that every trauma is meant to be healed. Absolutely not. And I think that we just need discretion. Like, is it limiting us? Is it affecting those around us? Do we care if it's affecting those around us? And that could be another issue, the apathy that comes with a lot of being traumatized so much, or generations of being traumatized. And I think that in America, Indigenous Black Americans, I think that we need to really understand and really ponder what effects have intergenerational trauma had on us. I think that we just think back on our childhood. We need to think back on our mother's childhood and their mother's childhood and
what happened and what has been transferred.
Yeah, what has been transferred down the line from the slave owners, and is the goal. The ultimate goal is not just healing; it's also transforming it. Because we just don't want to transfer it. We don't want to pass it along. That's not something that's not an inheritance we're going to give our children for this next generation. And I know that. I can say that confidently. In the next few generations, that won't even be an issue for Black Americans. I really do feel like that. I feel like we're collectively going through this transformative experience where we are seeking healing in droves. We're seeking to leave America, which I think that we all need to do personally.
Now, when you talk about us leaving America.
Oh my God. Energetically, when we go back to visit, like when I first started coming here, I'm like, oh my God, a relief from just the energetic frequency of white supremacy, of being at a place so long where you are discouraged to exist. You're literally, they don't want you to exist in America. And we never think about the implications of just being in that frequency. So
it's definitely a frequency.
It's a frequency. I felt it on the plane. I felt the moment I left out of the atmosphere of America. And I'm like, wow. And people don't really consider how powerful energy is, how powerful thoughts are, how powerful intentions are. Their intentions is for us not to exist. They don't want us to exist. They need us to exist.
I was gonna say, don't you think they want to make money off of this?
Of course, they need us to exist, but they hate that they need us. They hate that we're the only power there. They hate that they have to use us to get what they want. And it's not just about money. Money is so.
So you think it's deeper than that? So you don't think it's just the outright capitalism?
Absolutely not. I think outright capitalism was a physical manifestation of their intentions all along. I don't think the capitalism was the end game. I think capitalism was just the physical excuse that they could use.
So what about this? Because when they would do that to themselves, because when the colonizers would brutalize each other, they would kill each other. They had some of the worst wars towards each other.
Did they?
So when you look at the 100-Year War with the French and the British, and you would look at the Dutch and the British and how they would just go, they would decimate each other. They didn't have, there wasn't like a unity between them. So where do you think that comes from, that type of energy?
Which one?
The one that they had towards each other.
I think it's their nature, again. I really do.
Just to fight, just period. Whoever, just fight each other, fight everybody else.
I think that's their nature. And I don't think it's necessarily a detrimental thing to the planet. I think it can be detrimental if it's left unchecked. But, like, the bacteria that used to, like, wipe us out, now they have, like, a more symbiotic nature to us. Like, we have, like, over 100 bacteria on our skin, surface of our skin. If we didn't have this bacteria on our skin at all times, we'd be in trouble.
So the bacteria serves as a defense.
It's a symbiotic nature.
Got it.
We benefit it, and it benefits us.
Right.
Like, there's so much bacteria in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
If a lot of that bacteria didn't exist, we'd be in trouble.
Yes.
Like the bacteria in a woman's vagina. We have yeast in our vagina. We need yeast. But if there's an excess of yeast, it's an issue.
It's a yeast infection.
Yeah,
right.
It's an issue. So I don't think that white people inherently are bad for the planet. I think that where they're at now in access, they're bad for the planet. It's just like the planet has a yeast infection or a cancer. I think that when we put it in check, they can be beneficial. Because
so how do we put it in check?
I think it's happening naturally. I think the more we become aware to our power, you know how we can't really tell our lungs to breathe?
Yes, because it just happens.
It just happens. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to be, like the check.
Okay.
Because I think it's bigger than our minds. For one, our minds are the least intelligent part about us. Our minds
because everything else runs automatically.
Exactly. And our minds were the last to develop in the womb. But yet we come out and we use our minds. So yeah, I just think it's
happening by nature.
It's very natural because the planet.
And they're not a lost cause.
Yeah. Like the planet is alive.
Mm-hmm.
She knows that she's in danger. She knows that she has an access of cancerous cells on her surface. And I think that there's so many defense mechanisms that's happening right now that we're just not aware of. Like, I've seen so much, but I don't even want to get into that because y'all gonna think I'm a crazy woman. But
no, I don't think you're crazy. So I think that your journey has given you a lot of insight, and it has also given you a perspective that popular culture might reject. I mean, because you know, and so I think again that's one of the reasons why I like having these conversations, because in the world that I come from and have grown up in, it's a world of rejection. You don't want to you reject anything that sounds different from what this person told you, the teacher told you, the preacher told you, the family told you. So I like for people to be able to express themselves and share their perspectives, because I believe that there's value in all of our collective experiences. So no, I don't think you're crazy. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't think you're crazy. Yeah. So what, I guess now in your journey, What's next?
I'm just really enjoying spending time with my son on a regular basis. It was 3.5 years that I was separated from him. I didn't get to smell him. I didn't get to hug him. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying spending time with him, understanding the culture through him, and just really finding peace. Here in Ghana, it's a lot slower.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot slower, so I can rest. And the atmosphere, like the energy is slower, not just like the pace, but just the frequency. It's just like more chill, less anxiety, less stress, less grief in the air. So I'm able to breathe and rest. I want to start practicing healing again, but here it's not really welcome, you know?
Okay.
The Christian mentality is kind of seen as demonic or whatever. So I'm just focused on healing myself now. Because in the States, I would help others in their healing journey. And so, yeah.
So the next step for you is healing, continued healing.
Yeah, and just finding stillness.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have maybe one, maybe two more questions. What, in your move here, what were some of the biggest things that surprised you?
Mm.
And what would you have done differently?
I would have bought property in 2017 when I first came here. I was like, oh, I got time. No. The inflation.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, I know. I see it. I see it everywhere.
Woo!
It's unreal.
Oh my God! This is like New York,
It
like
is.
back in the.
And people
like
looking at me like I'm crazy when I
Yeah.
tell them, and I'm like, do you understand? I've never seen anything.
Never seen anything like it. It
Never.
is insane. So like now, let's say the same property I would have bought, it's like 5 times as much
Yes.
as it was
yes.
just in 2017.
Yes.
I can no longer afford property right now. I can no longer afford to buy property in Ghana, but in 2017 I could, and I should have. But I was like, oh, I got time. Let me just wait. I just look around, wait, look for a better option. No. So yeah, I would have bought property as soon as I first came here. And what's the most surprising thing?
Yeah, what's the most surprising thing?
I just got a dog, and they are. I thought if I get the same type of breed that you can get in the States, they call it a foreign dog here.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a different experience with the dogs here, and it's because of what their mother went through with their mothers and the mothers. So it's like it's a
So even the dogs have trauma.
generational behavior. Like in America, you can say to like pretty much any dog, and they know what it means, kind of,
Okay.
or they at least get excited.
Right. So they're okay.
They remember
They
from
say
their
outside or something
cellular
like that.
memory. Yeah. But here it's just they're so
It's a whole
different.
different kind of training.
A
process.
completely different type of. It's just insane. So that was really shocking to me. I was just like, I thought a dog was a dog. You can just, and it was really easy for me to train dogs in the States, but here it's just almost impossible. So that was shocking. Another surprising thing was the men here.
Uh-oh.
The men, if they're attracted to you, they expect you, how do I say this? If they're attracted to you, they take it as a personal assault that you don't respond to their attractiveness to you.
So like rejection.
Yeah, but it's different. So like in the States, you know, they shoot you, they beat you up, you know, whatever.
Okay.
As black men.
Okay.
Not all of them, but you know, that's how black men handle rejection.
Okay.
They whatever, B-I-T-C-H,
Yeah.
It cuts you
They
over.
will go that route.
But
okay.
here, it's different. I don't know how to explain it. It's like,
Yeah, break this down.
oh, it's so hard to explain. They look at you like you are an alien if you don't respond to their sexual advances. Like, you're at least supposed to be like, oh, no, it's okay. It's no. But me, I don't have energy to be giving out. So
So
I
you
just
just
completely ignore you. I just keep walking.
Oh wow.
That's what I do in the States. That's
Right.
what we
I
do.
got it,
So
I got
like that's what I'm used to doing, I just keep walking. I don't give you none of my energy, and they take that as such an alien thing for a woman to do, is to completely ignore you. Because here, it's politeness over authenticity. So even if you're getting sexually harassed, oh no, thank you, no, it's okay. I don't know. I didn't explain it well. I don't feel like I explained it well.
Well, I think that you said the men respond differently when they're rejected, but it's not as aggressive as many men in America.
Yeah,
they won't shoot you and cuss you out and all of that.
But it's like the most alien thing they could ever experience. Like, if that makes any sense. Like,
alien, okay, out of space.
It's like, what is this? Like, hey, you see this girl? You see this girl?
That's what they'll do.
Yeah, like, she just completely ignored me. Like, what? And then they're very aggressive. So like, Ghanaian men, in my experience, they're very business oriented. So like, if they see a woman they like, it's more like a business, like, so like, if the woman says no, oh no, thank you, that's their time to negotiate. So when you cut off all negotiations, you're just like, what the heck? Like, you know?
So it's a deal.
Yeah, it's like a business. Like,
she says no, yes, but it's kind of like when you go out to the market and you say no, I'm okay. Well, no.
Exactly. It's
so it's a persistence is there.
Yeah.
They wear it like a brother in the States. He might say, well, forget you or
and
whatever.
Men are persistent too in America. Like, black man, a brother, like, they have their persistence, but I don't know. I just feel like it's
just different. It's cultural difference. It's cultural difference.
Yeah.
What do you think we need to do? And this will be the last question. What do you think we need to do to bridge the gap between those of us who are from America? Because a lot of us are coming to Ghana, and their culture is different. What can we do to make that bridging of the gap more harmonious, so that we're not coming in trying to change them? They're not feeling as though we're disrespecting them. Or vice versa? What can we do?
I think it would be wise for us to form our own community and do something similar that all different groups of people do when they get to a foreign land.
Okay.
They cluster together.
So you think that's wise to do
I think we're so trained to open up wide and assimilate and change. But that's not the natural way of doing things. Like, I think for Black Americans, we're so trained to just give our culture, give our community, and open up and assimilate. And I don't think that's wise for us to do.
Do you think it would then could be perceived as us coming here, creating our own communities, and then becoming exclusive and now excluding the local community?
I don't think that.
Okay.
I think that I can see why we would see it as that way, because that's what it would be considered in America. Yeah, we got to get out that mentality. That's what all cultural groups do.
Okay.
When they get to America, the Nigerians, they link up. When they get to the Chinese,
they might fight in Nigeria against each other, but when they get to America, they link up.
Chinatown in America, we got a space. For all nationalities, they have their own space. They have their own community. Brooklyn Center. Oh, you're not from Minnesota, but there's a place where Brooklyn Center is only West Africans. So like it's a natural thing to do, to link up and form our own. I think the reason why we're so spread out here in America is because we got the ingrained that it's not a good thing to.
You mean get spread out here in Ghana?
Yeah, my bad. In Ghana, yeah. Black Americans, we have this idea that it's not a good thing to link up. Like, it's almost like.
So linking up.
It's not an offense to the culture. It's not an offense to the community.
How does that help the culture in the community if we link up?
I think that we can become powerful. We can become centered in our identity as Black Americans. I know a few of the sisters here. They already learning how to speak Tree. Okay. They can teach it to the rest of the community who's not really like myself. I'm not really. I can't easily learn Tree, and I can't easily assimilate. It's just really hard for me personally to assimilate.
Got it. Right, because of what we talked about.
Yeah, but for her, my homegirl, it's real easy for her to assimilate. She can, like you, she bargains real well.
And she can just go flow with it. Just flow with it.
And she makes friends everywhere she goes. So like, if we're all connected, we can learn from each other. She can teach me that, because I can you know.
So to be able to have basically some sort of mediation in a sense, or a mediator between, I don't know, mediators.
And right now we're just islands.
So
right now,
that way,
there's over 6,000 of us here.
At least.
At least.
I would say at least.
And then the last few years, of course, like they've been coming in droves. People have been coming in droves, but we don't know each other, and that's weird because in any other part of the world, you have whole communities. Like in what do you call it? The Netherlands, is that what it's called?
That's one of them. Yeah, the Netherlands. Yes.
The Netherlands, they have a whole community of Indians. Indians, just
I got you. I'm
right there.
I got
and
you.
they got Arabics, and then they got, you know, that.
But you know that your perspective again, and I appreciate it because one of the things that I always thought about were the pros and cons of it. But listening to you, I see a pro in having some way for those of us who are from America and have similar cultural background. Because anytime I see somebody from, hey, my brother, what's up, man? What's up? What's up?
The other week, or not the other week, the other day, I was in a store and I just saw a brother walking. I'm like, bro, you from America? What's up? I can tell by that walk. Oh my God. Like,
and that's how it happens.
That's just how it happens.
And that's part of our culture, which is nothing to be ashamed of.
It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to shy away from. I think that we need to link up. We need to form a community and help each other out. Because that's what they do everywhere else in the world. They help each other out.
How do we bridge the gap, though? Because we're coming into other people's land.
I think the gap will be naturally bridged. Just
Okay.
the same way Chinatown bridges the gap. They can barely speak English, a lot of them, you know, in Chinatown. Or
How do we avoid a Liberia situation?
a what?
A Liberia situation where, or I'll use a different example, or a similar example, where when people come back, they now try to change the culture that's already indigenous to.
I think
even though we know it's remnants,
is inevitable.
Okay.
It's gonna happen. Change is gonna happen.
Especially if they're inviting us back.
I think we should welcome change. Like, I think it can
Should that be on both sides?
Absolutely. I think it'd be helpful for the Ghanaians, and I think it'd be helpful for us. We can learn to be more of a community from the Ghanaians. The Ghanaians can learn to think for themselves more rather than listening to what the teachers tell them or what religions tell them, you know, from us. Like, it could be
so there's a mutual benefit that we can have where we can teach each other, and one is not better than the other per se. And because that's one of the things I always think about, because I know how we can be, because we're a melting pot of all of this, meaning West Africa, and then of course we still have some of the other stuff going on too, and then we have the culture that we have, and so we can go in places that we can dominate, and we can. I mean, if you think about it, there we can.
I disagree.
You know,
I think everywhere we go, we bless the land. I think every part of us that's in every other part of the world is blessed now. Hip hop blew up, blessed the whole world. Our
yes.
sauce, the way we so cool and
yes.
and the way we dress is everybody emulates that on every single continent.
They do.
In Asia, they dressing like us, walking like us, talking like us. In Africa, in Europe, and everywhere.
But
everywhere we go, we.
But let me tell you
we
where,
nutrition.
But let me tell you what we also have. When we make noise, when we do rise up, we're the ones who can move the needle. We're the ones that when civil rights was coming through, we're the ones who.
And where did civil rights travel to? South Africa.
Yeah, and it was happening kind of like at the same time, around that same time, but that's what I'm saying. With
Not
us.
really.
Well,
we started ours in the 50s, and ours ended like in the 70s, 60s, early 70s. Theirs ended in the 90s.
It ended, but it was still, they were kind of, because you had like the Hector Peterson, you had a lot of those things kind of running. It was a little bit behind, but they were kind of.
They was a little bit behind because they caught ours. It was like a relay race. It was
if you go there, you'll see how it's almost. When I say identical, meaning you'll see where they had the protests and the children getting killed and different things happening. But if you think about it, for us, And I think this is what is the beauty. And when I talk about us dominating, even though we do give up everything, and to your point, but when we get our minds right and we focus, it's something that happens that I've never seen. You know, it's like we can move a needle. It's like folks are afraid of us. And then if we're able to tap into everyone else, because that's the thing that they love about us is the same thing they hate about us.
Yeah. I think if we came here and formed a community, if we came here and formed a community here, I think we would spark liberation on the whole continent. And Africa will rise up as the world leader, and all other continents will fall down, as it naturally was when it was just resources that mattered, like spices and food and
I got you.
And gold. Africa was at the top. And I think if this was a planet, we're literally walking on our hands instead of our feet. And with Africa on top, we'll be back on our feet and we'll be walking like we should naturally. That's just my personal.
I got you, and I appreciate it. I appreciate this whole conversation.
Yeah, because I think in cold areas, there's a lack of empathy, and that's just biological. Because when you're in a cold area, you have to every man for himself. You can't like have a piece of food and share it with the whole family. But here, in a hotter climate, you can. So empathy is more nourished and nurtured and passed on. In colder climates, it's not. It's every man for themselves. You gotta survive. You gotta survive.
I can hear somebody.
I don't care. Forget that. We right here. My point is that empathy is
a warm climate. It's a warm climate trait.
Yes, and that's naturally. That's just biologically, and that's proven. That's scientific fact, actually.
Oh, okay.
Like we the scientists have proven that. Like when you're in cold climates and you're freezing, like people who freeze to death or airplanes who crash in cold climates, they got to eat each other. You feel what I'm saying?
What do they do in warm climates when they crash? And
they go and pick a fruit off the tree.
Oh, okay.
And then they share it with the rest of the people. Or they go fishing revenge. Like they do whatever. Like it's just it's
different.
Naturally abundant. And when there's abundance, there's an abundance of empathy.
Got it.
So I don't think naturally people from colder climates should be ruling the planet because they lack empathy. And empathy is needed for this whole thing to function. So
I got it. Well, Fazayah, again, what a wonderful conversation. I appreciate it. I mean, because we had no idea. You said go with it. I said, all right, let's go. And I thank you because you dropped some gems in here.
Okay.
And you've shared a perspective that most people have never considered. And I wish you nothing but success here in Ghana. I know you're going to do very well. And I'm glad to see you have reunited with your son and you're continuing to build that relationship. And I need to find out who you got this crib from, because it is. I can't show you all everything, but it is smoking hot. Not heat wise, but as far as like the whole layout and the design and everything. So, again, tell me what you said your name was Arabic.
There's a version of it that's Arabic.
Okay.
But it's I'm not pronouncing it right, but Koso, or Kosa.
Go get the click. Go ahead. You do it. Go ahead. You got it.
Kosa or XOSA. I can't remember how.
And that comes from
South Africa.
One of the indigenous
It was the tribe that Nelson Mandela was.
Okay. All right, so that's what, and they have the cliques in South Africa. That's the wonderful part about the continent. It's so different and so diverse. But hey, listen, what I want everybody to do, I want you to put your comments below, because there were so many gems. I'm gonna have to break this up. I can't even put this in one. I might let one long form run, but I mean, there's so many different things that we talked about. But put your comments below and chime in, and we'll make sure if you want folks to be able to contact you as far as social media. You might not even do social media.
I'm not really, but I do have an Instagram, Fazayah Rose, FAZAYAHROSE, Fazayah Rose.
There we go, and we'll make sure we put that up so you can follow her. And again, I would love to see your comments below. And I thank you for joining us for another conversation we are having here in Ghana. And I'm meeting some of the most fascinating people on this whole world experience. And we probably would have never met in the U.S. Mm-hmm. But it took coming here to Ghana to be able to have this conversation. So I thank you. And hey, everybody, make sure that you continue to stay plugged in, subscribe, like, share, and until next time, take care.
Open up your eyes and see all the fun and mystery. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny. From the mountains to the shore, so many things to explore. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny.
The Adventures of Darren and Destiny. And Darren and Destiny are twin brother and sister, and you go on their adventures throughout the African diaspora, meaning so African diaspora destinations, primarily focused in Africa, but we go to South America, we're going to go to the Caribbean. Their first book is going to take you to Ghana, and then we're going to go on a safari, and from there we're going to go to Ethiopia, and then we go to Salvador, Brazil. And what the goal is to be able to inspire curiosity in the continent of Africa, in our children from a very young age, and to really tell a more accurate story. Most of our children are exposed to negative images, late night infomercials about how bad things are, everybody's sick, everybody's poor, everyone's uneducated, but that's simply not true. So what Darren and Destiny and their family do is they go to different African destinations. They are learning about these different places. You're beginning to see positive images, but still telling the truth. I mean, that's the important thing, to tell the truth about some of the things that have occurred. But it's all done on our children's level so they begin to understand it. And it begins to pique their curiosity. They begin to learn more. And hopefully one day they will want to explore and visit the continent of Africa and its many countries. There's just so much that Darren and Destiny are able to do, and as they're doing it, it's like they begin to open the minds of a new generation, and they don't get bombarded and indoctrinated with negativity. They're actually able to see positivity and inspiring images and messages about the African diaspora, as well as those who are still indigenous to the continent of Africa, and they begin to learn more and just see things differently. So I'm excited about introducing the Adventures of Darren and Destiny.